Hi, so I'm Sacha Feldberg, and I'm taking a class called Lewiston, a Local Lens on Global Issues. I'm doing a project, an oral history of COVID in collaboration with the Lewiston Public Library, and I will be doing this interview for around 20 to 25 minutes. So I'll be talking to today is school counselor Vicky Wiegman, who has been on the front lines of efforts to respond to the mental and emotional health challenges facing students as a result of COVID-19. She works at the Lewiston Public School system. Would you like to briefly introduce yourself, Ms. Wiegman?
Sure. So as Sacha said, I'm Vicky Wiegman. I'm a school counselor, and my actual title is I'm the Substance Use Prevention Coordinator and Counselor. So I meet with students for a wide variety of reasons in counseling, but I also go into classrooms. And this is my 34th school year here, and I'm happy to share some of my thoughts.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for being here today. So, want to go right into the questions?
Sure.
Okay. So my first question is, what challenges have you had working with students during this time? How have you helped them through these challenges?
So one of the biggest challenges is that this is just such a big deal nationally and on the world landscape. Like we've never, dealt with a challenge this large. So you've got a really big challenge that's emotionally hard for all of us because I'm going through it too. And then it's also a time that we haven't had the same access to students we normally would. So we've been out of school since March 13th. And then when we came back, some people are here 2 days a week, some are here 2 days later in the week, and some are home all the time. So I think one of the biggest challenges is proximity. So how do we get to talk to students? And even meeting face to face. I've had to make some accommodations, but how I've tried to help students is by being really visible in the school community. I have a virtual office I made so they can see a little bit about what I do and make some appointments with me if they want to. And I'm also being really honest about, wow, these times are really, really hard. How are you doing? So being a little bit more intentional with outreach and also kind of upping my virtual game for students who aren't in school, or if there's some things I can provide virtually.
Cool. So what are some examples of virtual things that you've been doing?
So one of them is I made a virtual office, and that's just been kind of fun that it's accessible to, anybody in the school, and they can click on my office and see a bunch of different things. Like I have an advisory group, and in the corner of my virtual office, I made like a little treasure chest, and it says DA on it, Devil's Advocate, that's our advisory group. And they click it and it plays a video I made of me singing them a song that I sing to them other times. It's You've Got a Friend in Me from Toy Story. So I'm trying to have more of a virtual presence in that way. I'm also trying to help students be more comfortable meeting with me on Zoom because a lot of students are not comfortable talking to me or anyone from their home. It feels invasive. So trying to up my virtual game a little bit. I'm also taking some of my prevention and education programs and putting them on Google Classrooms and taking them in smaller chunks and maybe using more video so they can see my face and hear my voice. And then also just helping students to learn different coping strategies, or being able to say, this is all really weird and it doesn't feel the same to me and I don't know what to do with my feelings. So I think, those pieces have been making a little bit more of a presence for me virtually. And that's something our school department's been taking a lot of time, even though we complain about it, kind of upping our game with different aspects of virtual life with students, because we really have to, or we won't see them at all. Yep.
Makes sense. So that was actually one of my next questions, how have you helped them develop coping strategies related to mental health?
Yeah. So some of the pieces too, I feel like teens in general feel like they're the only person that has a problem when they're not. I mean, we do that as adults too. But one piece I've dealt with over and over and over again is students are in either cohort A, B, C, or D. And if they're A, they come to school Monday and Tuesday. If they're B, they come Thursday and Friday. We have semester classes now, which we used to have a rotating schedule of blue and white. They get out at noontime. They don't eat lunch here. They get a bag lunch on their way out the door. And some students are cohort C, where they're all at home. Well, they've gotten pretty confused about stuff. Do I have to log into my class every day? How come I'm failing this class? I don't get it. What if I do this? What if I don't do this? And then you take the teachers, they're doing something that they were not trained to do, most of them. They're not just standing up in front of a class and teaching. They're also having to make sure that students they're exclusively at home are getting, the same level of instruction. So my biggest piece with mental health issues is saying, you guys, this is weird for all of us. We are all struggling. Reach out for help. Ask for help. Tell me right now, who are your top 3 people you could ask for help? Those kinds of things, and helping students to give some voice to what they're feeling. And in a little bit, because I peeked ahead at some questions, I'll tell you about a bigger strategy we're using. But for me, it's reaching out. Don't let your feelings sit for too long. And let's look at some solutions to help you feel better. And I feel like right now the newness has worn off, so people are starting to struggle a whole lot more. It seems that way to me.
So really, I would think that they would be like adjusting to the new schedule, but they're still struggling more.
Yeah, they seem to be, because and teachers, teachers are people too. So if you have 4 teachers and 2 of them really get this and they feel okay about it and they know what they're doing, but then you have 2 that are still a little confused or don't know how to put due dates on assignments. So everything's got the same due date. And they know they don't mean that, but they don't tell anybody that. So you're also dealing with, kids are dealing with teacher inexperience, and just getting overwhelmed and feeling overwhelmed in their own right. And I think there's also an expectation that when kids go home, they're still keeping up with their classes. They're signing in on days that they're not here in person. And I just don't think most students are doing that. I think when they're not here, they're not here. I found that true during the time that we couldn't be in school, that it's like out of sight, out of mind. If I'm not in the school building, I'm not doing school. And that's certainly been challenging. And I don't want to, sound like I'm whining on behalf of teachers, but I feel like they don't have time to get done what they need to do and to go, oh, hey, Vicky Wiegman, I noticed you haven't been in class. Is something going on? Is something bothering you? So we're actually looking at seeing if we can involve more people in following up with students who are starting to fall between the cracks a little bit.
So you mean having more counselors in the school?
Either counselors or just people that maybe can do some case management and say, oh, hey, Vicky Wiegman, what do you need? Well, I don't have a laptop, so I can't sign into. We can take care of that. We'll get you a laptop. But just that sort of outreach to help students feel better. The other piece we need to think about too is it's not just the school, but adults and students alike. They may be dealing with job losses and economic hardship in the family. There may be people with health conditions that they're worried about in their own life. And then there's kind of the chaos if you have a family with multiple kids and this kid's doing such and such with school and this kid's doing such and such with school, but I still have to work. How do we juggle all that? So it's just a lot of stress going around for everybody.
I have one more question about that.
Sure.
Are students allowed to decide what cohort they're in, or is it randomly assigned?
So what they tried to do is people could ask, they could say, I want to be in the hybrid model. Or people could say, I want to be all virtual. So they had a choice of that. And then the district tried to put all kids in a family in the same cohorts. If they were doing a hybrid model and a kiddo at Montello was in cohort B, so coming Thursday and Friday, they made sure that every family member in the district was cohort B, just to give parents, you know, that kind of ease. But you couldn't, maybe people have found ways around this, but you couldn't say, oh, I want to be in cohort B because all my friends are in cohort B. I don't know anyone in my classes. They won't do that. And like, I get it, but I also get how hard that would be to randomly be with absolutely none of my friends, or maybe even worse, people that are like my enemies. So they don't have total choice. And then there's cohort D that comes 4 days a week. Nobody's here on Wednesday. Everybody's virtual. But cohort D is reserved for Lewiston Regional Technical Center, some special education programs where students have a lot of therapies and whatnot, and some English language learner classes where they have to have below a certain level of proficiency, and then they need to come 4 days a week. Well, everybody is like, I want my kid coming 4 days a week, and we just can't do it. They're trying to keep the cohorts separate. So we have people that are pretty unhappy. Then there was a certain time when people couldn't switch cohorts. With the exception, they're really not going to make a parent send a kid to school if they've decided they're really uncomfortable with that and they want them to be in cohort C. Then they'll just change it to cohort C. It's weird here. It's really weird. There's so few students.
Really?
Yeah, because you think about it, we had like between 14 and 1,500 students. And I don't know the exact numbers, but now some of them are here only on A, some of them B, some of them C, and some of them D. So it's just way fewer. We also have a big construction project going on. Are you familiar with the high school? Have you been here?
No.
Well, our front entrance, our main entrance is now closed off and everybody comes through the gym. So like I've said to kids in the morning, we keep making it weirder, don't we? We don't even have our main entrance anymore. So it's just, there's a lot for people to adjust to. I am very respectful of that people have a lot of emotions, but I'm also very respectful of the fact that we are all capable of rising to the challenge. We really are. And I think we're doing a good job. We're still here. Knock wood.
That is a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so my next question is, what programs have you created for students to adjust their emotions or concerns during COVID?
Okay, well, this is super timely because this is something that's kind of a big program throughout the universe. But the schools have been taking it on, and the high school hasn't been as involved in it, but we're getting very involved in social emotional learning, or SEL. And the particular approach that we're looking at is the ruler model, and ruler's an acronym, and it's around recognizing emotions. Like I might talk to a kid, I've got a feelings chart somewhere in a notebook, and I'll have a kid say to me, I'm really angry. And I'm like, well, and I'll pull out my wheel, and I like to use a lot of humor, but I'll start naming like the 20 different words that are under anger. But helping, so with social emotional learning, we're hoping to teach teachers who will then use this with their students to recognize their emotions, to understand a little bit about where they're coming from, and to help them regulate their emotions a little bit more. We all had to take a 3-hour, it was way more than 3 hours, virtual training. And then I'm going to a training, going to virtually, it was starting yesterday, but I'm like, yesterday's a holiday and I'm not doing anything, but I'm going to help learn the model to teach other staff the model. And then like later today, the committee, where did I put it? Oh, it's keeping my, now I'm going to tilt. A bunch of articles that a group of us are going to sit and read about SEL and how we can bring things to the staff and then the students. So that's a giant initiative in the district to help with the emotional and mental health needs that are cropping up for everybody. So I'd say that's the big one, the social emotional learning.
I hadn't heard about that before, so thank you for telling me about that.
Yeah, so do some research on that. So it's SEL, and then you could even look under Yale University and the ruler model, and you'd get a good like thumbnail sketch on it.
Cool. So this is like not a new thing.
SEL is not a new thing, but we're kind of just upping our game at the high school. The middle school does a great job with it here, as do the elementary schools. And we've got like a team that's taking this on, and we're going to hope to use this as a format to implement some assistance, because we all recognize that we need to.
So I'll look that up.
Okay. And if you want any materials, let me know. I'll send them to you.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My next question is about parents at the school or in the system. So how have parents reacted to the Lewiston public school system's COVID response in relation to students' COVID-19 curriculum and their learning experience?
So I think that a lot of times you only hear the complaints because people are pretty loud about it. I think that I think parents are, I bet a lot of them are not super happy with how things are going because it's so different, and people equate quantity with quality. So I think if their kid is only in classes for, 8 hours instead of 38 hours, they're thinking that they're getting, close to only 1/5 of the quality of education. I think parents are afraid. I think parents are afraid their kids are missing out. I think some people are really afraid of becoming ill. I think parents have been experiencing what teachers have been experiencing, like, I don't know how to do this. Yeah, I know I did this wrong, but here I'm fixing it. And then I think their kids are overwhelmed and they don't know what to do to help them out. Like if one of my own children was upset because somebody was picking on them, I know how to handle that and I know what steps to go through. If I've got a kiddo melting down at the table because they can't access their algebra class and, they were supposed to sign on and do an attendance question, I wouldn't know how to help them. And when a parent doesn't know how to help, they're going to get upset. They're going to be worried, and that's going to look a lot like mad. So I think, that's been an issue. I also feel like Lewiston was different than a lot of other districts. And when we first started quarantining, we were given the message from our administrators, you are not working now. You are not working right now. You are taking care of your family. You're making sure you're all well and safe. Stay tuned. We'll get on with some other stuff soon. So then we worked on, first and foremost, getting food out to everybody. That was something we were right on from the beginning, and I think we've done a great job, is people getting food. It may not be the yummiest food, but it's food. And then making sure we got connectivity to people. There are a lot of people that don't have internet. I have a kid that I think still doesn't have internet, but he's not going to admit it. So I think that led to some lag time when parents are like, why aren't our kids doing things when so-and-so school's doing things? Where are the packets you should be sending home? So I think everybody's done stuff in a different way. And we, I think, kind of lagged behind. And we were going through a giant shift with administration where our superintendent pretty abruptly left the job. So I think there was a lot of like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then figuring out how are we going to get back to school, in a normal fashion. So I think parents have a right to be upset because this is upsetting. I think parents have a right to question if their kids are getting a good education. Are they getting a good education? I don't know. I think we're doing the best we can right now. And when we know better, we'll do better. And then sometimes I just think some parents are going to complain no matter what you do. So I think probably a lot of parents are pretty critical. Some of that's fair, some of it's not, and sometimes it's masking other emotions. So I'm really grateful. I don't have kids at home that are in school. And I don't even have grandkids that are in school. So I don't know what it's like. I can only imagine. And I think most people are struggling.
Yeah, it sounds like a really tough thing to manage.
It's
like,
a lot.
the parents like want what's best too, but
Yes.
but the schools are doing the best that they can too. So they have, and I feel like I would just wonder how much. I think it probably helps that you tell them that you're doing the best that you can and that everyone's going through it. That's probably the best thing you can say during this time.
Yeah, I do. I feel like it's things like that. And then even just saying, hey, tell me what it is you feel like you need.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one student, he's virtual and he lives with a relative. He doesn't live with a parent. And the relative is very critical. You're not doing enough of this to the kid. You're not doing enough of this, not doing that. And like, you tell your so-and-so, I think you're doing a great job. I think you're doing a great job. I think you're getting the most you can right now with what we have, but we're all still trying to figure this out. And really, when you think about it, this isn't a Lewiston, Maine thing. This is national. So many people are in the same boat of like, am I going to have this kid who's 18 and doesn't know how to do basic math because of COVID? No. You know, are some people going to be, you know, way behind? Probably. Are we going to lose some kids totally who just are like, see ya, I'm dropping out, man. This is dumb. You know, maybe. But I think if we all keep trying to do the best we can with what we have, we'll come out of this on the other side. And I'm a big believer, you know, when this first happened, so it was Friday, March 13th was my last day in school. So that Saturday, I said to my husband, hey, I want to go into my office and bring some stuff home. I just got a weird feeling that I'm going to need some stuff. So I came in, I picked up a bunch of things, big bag full of stuff that's still in my den at home. And I passed an administrator on the way out, and he said, that's it, we're done until after April vacation. And then it was, we're done until next fall. So I said to my husband, I picked up my in basket and I said, 75% of this stuff doesn't matter anymore. And then I further said, it may be that 75% of it never mattered. So I hope